let's start here. What does this mean? I'm excited for this. Just to like flex on everybody, by the way, I bought the original of this. No one else can get it. All right, that's all.
Okay. So
which if you want to tell prints of it, I wouldn't be offended, by the way.
No, I never could get a good image of it. So you have the original. That's it. That's all there is. So.
All right, I'm going to sell prints of it then.
Wow.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Should I kind of explain the context a little bit?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay. Wasn't sure where we were going. Okay. So I made this after I had a dream. It's in my Instagram. If you go and click on it, I kind of explained it a little bit. Maybe I didn't. I had this dream, and it doesn't matter most of the dream, but the weirdest thing in the dream was that I saw a rabbit that was caught by an eagle, and it was not an eagle, an owl. It was caught by this owl, and it was flying, and then a much bigger owl, a white one, came and swooped and got the other owl. So it was like this very weird, like, predator gets the prey, but then there's another predator. There's something above that, and it was this huge white eagle. So it was this very like striking image. And there was just in the dream, I won't go through the dream or whatever, it doesn't matter, but there was kind of this circular imagery, this kind of like making a circle. And so I put it in this format just because I really have I still don't know what that means. But it was just such a shocking thing. But at the end of the dream, I was sitting there with Jordan Peterson, and he asked me, "What does it mean to be ruled?" And it was a really unsettling question. And I started writing about it, later the next day or whatever. And then over the next couple days, and I was talking about it with somebody, and I kind of subtly switched what he had said to what does it mean to serve. And when I realized that, when I looked and saw what I'd written down before, I was kind of surprised. I'm like, oh, I changed the whole context of this dream just with this rephrasing of these words. And it kind of weirded me out because I was like, okay, how many things am I doing that with? It's because serving something is much more appealing than being ruled by something. That's kind of downgrading. I don't know. It's being subjugated somehow, being much smaller, like probably feeling more like the rabbit than like, I don't know, the medium owl or something like that. But then so I changed it around, and I didn't even realize that I did that. So there was just kind of pondering on that, and this sort of moving from things coming up, let's say from a dream or from the unconscious, and then the way that we tamper with them consciously to suit our own image or expectations. It really kind of freaked me out. So that's what this was about, was just kind of a meditation on that idea. And then, yeah, I remember you sending me something that you had written after maybe looking at that, or it was like had to do something with that, but it was kind of a while ago now. Can't remember.
Yeah, I feel like I should read that there because I feel like it's a continuation of the story a bit, and then we'll discuss it right after. So let me just boop, boop. We'll see if this works, man. It just totally might not work, and if not, whatever. But that's what we're on the edge out here. This show is all on the edge the whole time on the edge of technology and our abilities. Okay, did you guys hear?
No, it cut out. Sorry.
All right, it is what it is.
Like,
it is what it is.
Or you could just read the text to us and overlay the music later.
All right, we're gonna make do with what we got. My grandma always used to say to me, use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. It was kind of just like nut up or shut up.
Nice. Yeah.
So we will nut up. What does it mean to serve? What does it mean to be ruled? Who or what are you a slave to? Have you chosen willfully, or has something taken you captive? Everybody acts out a story, but very few know what their story is. And everyone serves a master, but very few know who their master is. You should know what your story is, because it might be a tragedy, and maybe you don't want it to be. And you should know who your master is, because it could be something dark, and maybe you don't want it to be. A friend once asked me, Jake, are you religious? I answered, I think everyone's religious. They didn't understand, and I don't blame them. I tried to explain everybody has deeply held values, conscious or unconscious. Everyone follows something immaterial. Anyone who has ever felt remorse is aware of a more proper way of being. But what is the proper way of being? This is the fundamental religious question. Everyone must ponder it at some point in their life. Haven't you? I believe in hell. I've seen it written on the pages of history, heard its echoes in the voices of the tormented, and have felt it personally. I'm no stranger to the dark. And there, in that place of great suffering, dangling over the edge of the abyss by the tips of my fingernails, I saw so clearly. Suddenly I knew that love and truth were firm foundations I could hold on to until the storm had passed, and then after it had passed. I learned what will withstand even the darkest hell, and that if you invite the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of what is highest, the Spirit of love, truth, hope, peace, and integrity, and all that is good to dwell within you, and decide to make yourself a slave to it, you will be delivered from any hell, be it in this life or another. Beautiful, blissful state. It's not ancient spiritual wish-wash. It's true. And if you allow yourself to be a slave to deceit, hatred, selfishness, and despair, you will have no doubt of this. How much did we hear?
All of it. That was great.
Amazing.
We got it. Oh, yes,
got it.
Jake. Beautiful.
It is.
Yeah.
That was really good.
You know, I was reviewing this yesterday, I mentioned, and I hadn't looked at it for like about a year. And it was funny to me that it hadn't occurred to me that when we spoke, Lucas, I told you this story about when I wrote about in this, and I wrote this soon after that had occurred. And I didn't really realize that occurrence had stuck with me so much, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think that was like a realization for me when the friend asked, like, are you religious? And I was like, yes, but like when I say yes, like what you're going to hear when I say yes to that isn't exactly what I mean, you know? So I couldn't just simply answer with like, yes, you know, it's kind of the classic, you know, do you believe in God? It's like what you hear when I say yes isn't right. So now we have to like have a deeper conversation. You just want a yes or no. And like, oh, everyone's going to get all upset that I'm not being straightforward, blah, 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 you know?
Yeah.
But, and then, yeah. So is there anything that stood out to you guys from it? I might have a couple specific questions, but.
I think that it kind of underpins everything we've already been talking about. And I feel like we've been talking about it, some of the like maybe a little bit darker stuff, or yeah, like the little bit dark, maybe a little bit darker, like the negative side maybe of things a little bit. And I tend to look at those patterns probably more than other things, and I like just the way you pull it all together and settle it on love and truth as a foundation is like the perfect way to tie up all of those things.
Tie up. Sorry, I lost you.
It's just it's the best way to tie up everything we're talking about. I think we're all cutting out a little bit.
Yeah, it's so fun. We're doing great, guys. Everybody's doing great. I appreciate everybody's effort. Yeah, you know, because that was the thing for me, you know, in that I feel like I'd been like, I'd almost intentionally traumatized myself by the darkness, sort of. You know, we mentioned, I mentioned this to you guys the first time. You know, I was like, I felt like I saw. You know, you said Lucas that like the creatives see like what is coming. You know, the artists see what other people can't. Like while it still feels like it's not there, sort of thing. And I felt like we were in this cultural moment where I was like, oh, I'm quite alarmed about where I see things headed. And I feel like I can feel perhaps in that more intuitive feminine sense, I feel like I can feel where we're headed and it doesn't look good. And then I felt like I had this responsibility to understand the darkness to help avoid it. You know, I felt like it was really like responsibility oriented. I feel like I felt like I had to like look at the dark things that were happening in the world. Oh, I didn't realize we didn't have this up. I've been looking at it this whole time. I felt like I had to like look at the dark things in the world, you know? And so that had happened. I was feeling that feeling before COVID happened, basically. And that was when I was reading the Gulag Archipelago. And then COVID happened. And then I was like, you know, like, all right, everybody will wake up. You know, like it felt like if this was going to turn, this would be the time that it would turn, you know, fourth turn, so to speak. And so then I was so this was, you know, this was beginning of this year. Is that right? Yeah, it was the beginning of this year when I wrote this. And we talked about my mushroom trip. That was, you know, heaven and hell, essentially the two polarities in that way. And then so when I wrote I believe in hell, I've seen it written on the pages of history, heard its echoes in the voices of the tormented, which, you know, like if that's, you know, when someone's traumatized, when someone's gone through something really dark and, you know, they're out of it, but you can hear in their voice when they've been there, you know, and you can kind of recognize that. And I think it's part of why, like, people, like, I feel like really difficult experiences make people more empathetic, because it's like, oh, that's right, it can get dark, you know, like, and so when you see people at the bottom of a pit, it, you know, I feel like it increases your empathy in that way. And so, yeah, so it goes on to say, the last thing. And there in that place of great suffering, dangling over the edge of the abyss by the tips of fingernails, I saw so clearly. Suddenly I knew that love and truth were firm foundations that I could hold on to until the storm had passed. And then it ends with, it's not just ancient spiritual wish-wash, it's true. If you allow yourself to be a slave to deceit, hatred, selfishness, and despair, you will have no doubt of this. You know, and so to tie it back to the starting, you know, to this piece, really, what does it mean to serve? What does it mean to be ruled? I don't know, that just that this why I bought this piece too was that I feel like that I like saw this and I thought about it for like days, you know. I was like, you know, what does it mean to serve? What, and perhaps more longer than days, but what does it mean to serve? What does it mean to be ruled? And then like, who rules you? Who you know, you everybody is a slave to something. What have you chosen to make yourself a slave to? Or have you even chosen, you know, like, or has something just taken you captive when you weren't paying attention?
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I really don't have much to add to it. I just think it's very insightful and existential. Like, you need to, I think a lot of people need to hear this. Might be a tragedy, like Jung says. Yeah.
And maybe you don't want it to be. And you know, you might be, because if you ask like, what is my highest, what rules me, what do I pursue, what have I put in the highest place, it's like, you might not like the answer, but like, don't not look at it. You know, that's not worse. It's not going to go away, you know, if you just don't look at it and don't like the answer, you know. And I feel like you have to continue doing that all the time. I feel like you always have to be asking yourself, like, what am I serving right now? You know, because I'm wrestling with that all the time. And you have to have, you know, so something has to sit at the top of the hierarchy. Something has to sit on the throne, right? Or yeah, but there's things you need to do, you know, like there's like I think of this in terms of money often, because you need money to do things. Money is energy, and you should be directing energy in the most positive ways that you can. But you know, that's something that I wrestle with, of like, am I abdicating a greater calling by focusing on money, or am I focusing on this money in a way that gives aid to the greater calling, you know, that supports that? So that's something I wrestle with this a lot.
Yeah, maybe then the third question to tack on to the end of these two is something like, what would you be willing to give up, I suppose. Then you kind of know which thing might be on top, or maybe you don't want it to be. But Like could you give up money, or could you give up maybe what you feel like that higher calling is?
Mm-hmm.
You
It's a
said like you're
confrontational one, the money one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You say
No, like
confrontational.
when you really think about it, yeah, it's super confrontational in the sense that I'd uh, I had Elizabeth Oldfield on the channel, and she speaks about this of like, in the Bible, it speaks a lot about not, just keeping your wealth and like hoarding it in a sense, and like who of us are really like coming to grips with the idea that um we should give as much as we can. Like
Mhm.
I'm not living up to that ideal for sure. Like I have a vision of having more than I need, and I'm like easily used to that idea and luxury, just little things even. Um, that's that's super difficult to discard with, but there's a
The
reality
solution
to money ruling a lot of us.